Do you want to make cells like this in your paintings? Let me show you how very quickly. We need paint, pouring medium, and silicone oil. You can use the American float roll if you have it, but if you don't worry about it. You can also use a retail pouring medium like this Liquitex. I'm in Egypt, so I'm going to use a locally made pouring medium. This is called the Artbox. If you guys are in Egypt, you should try this out. I've gotten it recently and it's working out pretty well for me. Now we need to establish measurements. I'm going to use a tablespoon, and 1 tablespoon will be 1 part. Okay, so the recipe is 2 parts of the pouring medium, so 2 full spoons of the pouring medium, and then 1 part of paint. So using that same spoon, as I'm going to show you, we fill up spoon once. This is 1 part. Fill it up again. That's 2 parts. I prefer to do the fluids first, so when you put the paint back in the spoon, it slides out very easily. So using that same spoon, we'll put the paint, we'll fill up that spoon with paint, and just slide it off into the cup to mix it. One thing I'll tell you that I've been doing recently when it comes to mixing is I've been using paint brushes to mix. And I've been finding that these help me break down the paint a lot easier into the pouring medium. And then I'll just have a cup of water on the side that I can rinse the brush in to mix up the other colors. Do try this tip out, the brush, and let me know what you think. But do remember that you have to wash it pretty much immediately, because if the paint sets, it'll ruin the brush. So now we need a wet base. I'm using white to make the colors pop the most, especially if they get transparent or if they're transparent to begin with. Everything is mixed in the same recipe that I showed you before. 2 parts pouring medium to 1 part paint. Now the yellow, the magenta or pink, whichever one you see, and the red have 1 drop of silicone each. I've stirred it in, I counted about 12 times. And the black is going to be the swipe color, but the black doesn't have silicone. Everything, all the colors, yellow, pink, red, black, and white are all 2 parts pouring medium and 1 part paint. The only difference between them is the ones that have a drop of silicone and the others don't. The white and black don't. Okay, so as you see, I've put them down in horizontal strips. I'm torching out any bubbles. Do not use a lighter like I am. I just ran out of gas in my torch. And, you know, the lighter will break down and you will probably burn yourself. So let's not do that. Okay, now I put the color I'm going to swipe with at the very edge. You'll notice my edges are a little messy, but that's because I generally paint over my edges afterwards. If you like having the painting go off on the edges, just tilt in all the directions that you need to get the paint over the edges. I personally prefer to paint my edges black or one of the colors of the painting, or I often dismount the canvas entirely and put it on a different frame, so the sides end up being cut. Now I swipe with a tissue. If you're a beginner, I recommend the tissue because it's very weightless and you have less risk of, you know, scraping the paint. I'm going to do a little bit of tilting to get some of that excess black off and spread the paints out a little so the cell development is easy. Notice how I've kept the majority of the paint on the canvas, but that's because the amount of paint I'm using in the first place isn't excessive. You notice that when I put the colors, I didn't cover the entire canvas in colors. This accounts for the fact that you're going to spread them out when you swipe them. So now as we begin to torch, our silicone oil droplets come to the surface, and that's what we call cells. Those little see-through droplets of silicone give you a little window into the color underneath. And yeah, isn't this awesome? I never get tired of watching cells develop and grow. But yeah, so I don't take too much of your time. A little troubleshooting for you at this stage. So the way your cells appear will tell you a lot about the nature of your paints and the consistency, okay? Especially before you try to tilt. So if your cells are wobbly, that usually means your paints are a little on the thin side. If your cells are very small and struggling to get bigger or struggling to get to the surface, that probably means your cells are too thick. Now, this is all based on the fact that you didn't move it. When you start to move it, if you pick it up and tilt it, if it disintegrates, if it gets really wobbly, again, same thing, you're on the thinner side. If you're able to pick it up and it moves uniformly without warping too much, that's the perfect sweet spot. And yeah, that's how to produce cells with silicone oil and pretty much any pouring medium that you have on hand. It does not have to be Floetrol. Hope this helps. This was G, and I'll see you in the next video.